Hi everyone. This is, I think, my third Poetry Against the Plague in relation to a series of poems that I've chosen by women poets, by Filipino women poets, that deal with questions of um, inequality and poverty, which I feel are discussions we should continue to have. Ones that we started given this crisis, but also ones that have a tendency to be erased, I think, as we decide that we want to move forward, regardless of whether that's even possible at this point. Um, so these are actually two poems on a spread, which is a cool thing. But I'm going to start with a poem by Merlinda Bobis, um, which was written in 1988. This is entitled The Vendor. The Vendor. She squats on high noon, a burnt mascot in her open lair. I swear there is smoke rising from her naked nape. Her palm, a dark leaf on her eyes, moves me, for where her fingers part, the sun pulls through with conviction. Her steel squint is what I wish to buy for its seeming endlessness upon her mangoes. So I inch closer, and her eyes rush a relief of mist where we both cool our brows. Oh, we are too shy to spill this sudden kinship, so I end up with her warm, warm mangoes. This is by Merlinda Bobis, written in 1988, and I'm actually encountering it again after a long, long time, and still quite enjoy how it tries to bridge that gap between oneself, the persona who is um, dealing with another who is poorer than her and who is selling her mangoes on the street. And I feel like it's one of those poems that reminds us of on the one hand the similarities that we like to celebrate, regardless of inequalities, um, while at the same time it acknowledges how that distance cannot be bridged, that there is a an almost transactional relationship that we have with this unequal other, and that no amount of similarity in terms of womanhood um, or no amount of charity, no amount of um, having our eyes wide open to the inequality actually bridges that gap. That these tasks are of buying mangoes from another woman who's a vendor, who um, whose experiences are so different from yours. Um, Buying those mangoes does not change that relationship. In the same way, I feel that we need to be made even more aware at a time like this one, that even when we talk about the poor, even when we talk about hunger and need and want, and even as so many of us try to um, address the needs of the most vulnerable sectors of society, um, we are not bridging this distance unless we actually um, work on fundamental changes that need to happen in the way we do things, in the way we are governed, in the systems that dictate um, and that actually cradle and encourage this kind of inequality. So that part where um, the persona in the poem looks upon this vendor, and that moment in which she thinks there's a we, where we both cool our brows, or we are too shy to spill the sudden kinship, um, is an interesting point of reference for um, what it is that we imagine bridges this gap. Um, and that ending where in the end all the persona has of this vendor is really just what she sells and nothing else, is to me important. It's a reminder of um, what we continue to need to do, to what we should want to do, especially after the experience of this pandemic. Um, and Bobis reminds us that this act of looking and involving ourselves in the other, and even the task of finding similarities and universal notions of gender or womanhood um, is really just that. It's, you know, it's searching for these links that don't quite matter in terms of actually changing the inequality that exists. So this is poem number 3 in this series. Um, and I don't remember now how many other poems I've done though for Poetry Against the Plague, but there are a couple more poems, I think, from Songs of Ourselves that I want to read before I start doing the Tagalog poems from Silid na Mahiwaga. Thank you, and until the next poem.